This is KSL Sunday Edition with Boyd Matheson.
Welcome to Sunday Edition. I am Boyd Matheson. Each Sunday we attempt to divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense. We have conversations with great thinkers, great leaders, and great people making a difference. We talk politics so we can discuss society, and we explore society so we can discuss principles and the people in America who actually live them. We bring the best and brightest to Utah, and we send the Utah model to our nation's capital and beyond. Well, today is Mother's Day. Now, we're going to talk about the origin story of the holiday and Congress's inability to see the obvious in a day to celebrate extraordinary women a little later in the show. But we're going to start the show with a focus on the lessons and principles from powerful and impactful women who make a difference in our communities and in our country every day. One of those women, KSL TV's Brooke Walker, is truly extraordinary. She is the host and executive producer of Studio 5 with Brooke Walker. She's an Emmy Award-winning journalist and also the host and executive producer of Family Rules on BYU TV. Brooke, happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you, Boyd.
I never like to introduce people by their resume. Yours is really long, but I always do it in terms of the principles. And for you, I always come back to you are a connector, you're a convener, and you are authentically courageous, which I think creates space for a lot of women. And it's fun to have you on the studio and in the other chairs so I get to ask you questions
Is this
today.
how my guests feel every day? Because
Every time.
I have new compassion. I don't know about my courage, but I think you're courageous for asking a pregnant, potentially hormonal woman to talk about womanhood on Mother's Day. One of us is going to have mascara running down our cheeks by the end of this
It'll probably be me.
Okay,
probably be me. Let's start. Over the last 2 decades, you have convened women in extraordinary ways through your show and through so many other modes there. I want to get to what are the lessons that you learn from the women who you engage with every day.
First of all, it will go down as one of my greatest life honors to have this front row seat to great women. And as far as what I've taken away, 2 decades, wow, time is a crazy thing. But I always come down to a really simple, probably elementary school observation, but one that I think has significance, and that is that women are good. Like, women are innately good. And every day, again, I sit in that front row chair and I get to talk to women about their best ideas and their best creations and, you know, the principles that have served them and you know, the legacy they hope to leave. And that's inspiring to me, but I marvel at their goodness. And I think all too often, you know, in social dialogue, we tend to focus on the weaker or the negative, like women are jealous, they're competitive, they're comparative. And I think that represents the vocal minority, because at the core, the majority of women are really good women just trying to do good in all they do. Yeah. I always say women are great because they are good. And I think you get to see that, they're so good
every day. Let's talk for a second about some of those high impact women that have had an influence on your life, your career, your family, and what comes next.
Well, it's Mother's Day, so I don't have to.
You get to.
I get to say my mom tops that list for sure. And she is a woman, she's a sparkly woman. She was a kindergarten teacher for many, many years. She managed a very magical classroom and touched the lives of thousands of children over her nearly 30-year teaching career. In our home, she was exemplary of the characteristic of niceness and kindness. In fact, I come from an all-girl family. I have 3 sisters. And our motto growing up was because nice matters. And I will say, ironically, this motto kind of hit and took in our family in the mid-90s when the vinyl lettering craze was really huge. So some people had live, laugh, love on their walls. We had because nice matters everywhere.
I love that.
And my mom would just pump that principle of kindness into every opportunity and into every situation that she hoped her daughters would find themselves in. And so that kindness just resonates.
Yeah, I love that. As a guy with a lot of sisters, I know the power of sisters. I have 7 of them.
I thought you were going to say the power of vinyl lettering, but you know the power of sisters too.
I'm going to leave the vinyl lettering to, that's way above my pay grade, Brooke. But I know you've learned some important principles from your sisters as well. Describe that for us.
My sisters are amazing. They double as my best friends. We call each other sister friends. That's the only appropriate title we've been able to come up with for each other. We're very different in personality. We're different in age. My youngest baby sister was my high school graduation present. So there's a big span of 18 years difference, you know, 2 decades between us. But I think we're a good example, the 4 of us together, of better together. Like, we are different, but we sort of collapse on each other like a house of cards, and we're helping and lifting and elevating each other in the different chapters and seasons of our life. And I think it's a good a good example of womanhood in action. I love them and they support me, and I just feel at rest in their presence because I know they have my back.
Yeah, oh, love that. Give us one from your professional experience, a woman that's had an influence or a principle that you learned along the way.
Yeah, you know what, so many. My mind goes automatically, though, to a dear friend and actually the creator of Studio 5. Her name is Michelle Torsak. She led the show for a good decade before she went on to do amazing things. She's doing amazing things right now at our sister company, Deseret Book. But she was an example of vision in action. She knew content inside and out, which is what made her such a stellar producer. But beyond that, she's a visionary woman. She can see where she wants to go, and then she works backward. So professionally, that was an interesting lesson, right? Or a catalyst of study, that where do we want to go, and then let's work backward from there. And there's, of course, some personal life lessons in that as well. But I really admire her as a visionary woman and producer.
Yeah, let's take just a second before we go to break, and I want to start this part of the conversation with what is it that women need in the world today? There's all kinds of challenges. There's all kinds of things flying at women today.
Yeah.
What do they need in this space?
I think women need validation. I don't think women want to be celebrated per se, but I think they want to be seen for the ways that they show up, for their families, for their neighborhoods, for their communities. And I sometimes think even women get a little confused around this idea. This is my observation, but women might be seeking power or status or title or leadership or responsibility, when really I think ultimately what we want is just to be validated in our efforts to do good. And that validation doesn't always have to come from an external source. In fact, back to my mom again, she had a really clever way of teaching us that you can validate yourself from the inside out too.
Yeah, so important. And we're going to stay with that part of the conversation because that's what we do on this show.
Yay.
So we're going to step aside for a quick break. When we come back, we're going to stay with the conversation with Brooke Walker as we celebrate Mother's Day and the extraordinary women of the world and their influence in principles and making our communities, our countries better, stronger, and more hopeful for the future. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sunday Edition. We're staying with the question and the conversation just a little bit longer on Mother's Day with Brooke Walker from Studio 5 on KSL TV. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, it was an honor to be here, Boyd.
Such an important day to reflect on those principles. We always try to get to the principles of all of this. Just before the break, we were talking about some of the things that women need, that of being seen and validated. Give us some other ideas in terms of how do we go about that? How do we do that better?
Well, it's an interesting word to talk about in our time because all you have to do is open up Instagram or Facebook and you see people searching or seeking for a certain kind of validation. But I think smart women, good women know that it's not that external validation, but rather an internal validation, a lasting validation, you know, service of others and service of God that will really fill your bucket, so to speak. I mentioned before the break, my mom taught this to me at a really young age. I think I was 7th grade, 13 years old, and to both my flattery and my horror, I got this solo, right, in this little performance. And it was a simple 2-bar song, but I poured everything I had into for 2 weeks just practicing that song.
You did.
Yeah. And I got up there and I did okay, right? It wasn't like an award-winning, Grammy-winning performance, but I did okay. My output felt like it equaled my input. I had put so much into that 2-bar song. And on the ride home from that performance, my mom and dad were both there. I was in the back seat, and I must have been quiet because my mom said, "What's wrong?" And all of the drama of my 13-year-old self came pouring out. And I said, "Nobody said I did a good job." And like there was the vibrato that I needed, you know, 20 minutes earlier on stage. And my mom could have in that moment like fluffed me up buttercup, right, and started to fill my bucket, but she didn't. Instead, she turned around, and I'll never forget what she said. She said, "Brooke, just because you were up there, sometimes that's good job enough." And I was like, wow. And that little lesson, that little principle has shaped me, not just personally, but professionally. Sometimes we're given these opportunities and we do pour ourselves. In fact, women don't give themselves to people or give themselves to a task. We pour ourselves into those tasks and those responsibilities. And sometimes the output doesn't always reflect what we put into it. But to my mom's point, we have those opportunities to say, just because I've been, charged with the PTA or, you know, in charge of this family even, like I can turn inward and validate myself for being given that opportunity.
I think that's so important. We had a conversation with Camille Ann Johnson, General Relief Society President for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And we were talking about it, if you look at things in the context of a corporate structure and the way the world looks at things in social media, it's easy to wonder if you are enough or if anything actually matters. But we talked about it in this context of any given Sunday. That in that Relief Society, oldest, largest women's organization in the world, any given Sunday, there's nearly 1 million women who are teaching, leading,
Right.
sitting in council with each other, sitting in council with men, figuring out what's the best thing for our little community here. And that is enough.
That's enough.
Because it's not about a title, a position, corner office. It's about impact, because that's where legacies really happen.
Yeah, your greatest opportunity for influence no one will know about, because it's in the quiet pockets of your life and your home and your family. Again, those lasting moments of validation or opportunities for validation, that's what should lead us and guide us.
You brought one of my favorite things, a children's book to teach us a principle.
I'm glad we shared this, because I collect children's books. In fact, I spent too many dollars at the BYU bookstore as a college student buying not textbooks, but children's books. This is one of my favorite children's books. You can tell it's loved and worn. We have several copies, but this is clearly a favorite. It's called Hip Hip Hooray by Annie McRae. And I'll just plant this seed that if you're looking for an alternative to a Dr. Seuss, right, to all the places you'll go for graduation, this is a good one. But it's this spunky, redheaded little girl named Annie, and the whole world cheers her on, no matter what she does. But one day, the cheering stops, and not her mom, her dad, her grandma, her teacher, whoever it is, no one praises her or acknowledges her. And she has this aha that she can work from the inside out to find that validation and find that personal praise. We read this a lot. I hope my girls internalize that early, like my mom helped to teach me, because it does serve us when we realize that lasting validation comes from the inside.
Yeah, so important. Give us some of the surprise connection points with your everyday on KSL 5 TV. You have a following that is amazing, but what are some of the unique connections that you have made with women over the years?
Gosh, I take those connections to heart, meaning they're real. Like, that's one thing that maybe has surprised me about this whole television business, is we do put this show out every day, and we hope it lands and we hope it connects. But the connections through the screen are real, and women are innate connectors, right? I've had some really, really meaningful conversations on the aisles of Target, right? Or at my local grocery store, where a woman will just reach out and bring up something that she heard or felt from the previous week or the previous year. I hope my mind can keep up with them in those moments. But I think women, again, they're good at the core, and they see good and they recognize good and they want to share good. And so I've just appreciated that kinship over the years.
Wired for connection.
Wired for connection. It's more than just talk. We want to connect.
Just in our last couple of minutes here, Brooke, give us something that we can do better to both support women and the one thing that you hope every woman will be thinking about today.
You're good at this, Boyd. Good questions. What could we do better to support women? I think it comes back to that word validation. Again, I don't think women want to be the center of the party, most women anyway. I don't think they want to be celebrated. They just want to be seen. And when you think of like the everyday mundane efforts, that's where the meaning is, right? It's in the diaper changes and the daily dinners, and in between the tasks, real magic is happening, right, in the homes and neighborhoods, and women are always at the heart of that. There was an awesome article in the New York Times this week on kin keeping. Did you see that?
I love that. Yeah.
They defined a kin keeper. I have a definition to keep us journalistically integrous. But kin keeping is creating or carrying on family traditions, buying gifts for birthdays and holidays, coordinating medical care, and performing all sorts of emotional caregiving, a form of invisible labor predominantly done by women, dedicated to family bonding and magic making. Just knowing there was a word for that, like what women do every day. Let's see that. Let's see that kin-keeping effort.
Love that.
And acknowledge it. And as far as what I hope women will know, I think I would hope that they know that, they're not just capable, but they are it. Like, you are the mother for your children, and you are the matriarch for your family. And you have, we all have these unique little pieces about us. And if we're confident in our piece of the pie, then everyone benefits when we show up and offer that.
Yeah, I love that. It's never just in anything. And it is in those in-between moments that I think we often get lost. And I think that women often discount their true value and their true impact because it's not always the headline things, it's the in-between space.
Well, it's funny you say that. I joke, and my news friends don't appreciate this, and you're a news friend, but I'm going to be brave and share. Come 5 o'clock, the most important headline to a lot of women is what's for dinner. And that's just not about what's on the table, but that's about those in-between pockets of connection that they're trying to create, or kin-keeping that they're trying to, put forward to strengthen home and family that they do so well.
Oh, I love that. Brooke Walker, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
You're the best, Boyd. Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you.
And one on the way.
One on the way, yeah.
Fantastic. All right, we're going to stay with the Mother's Day conversation coming up after the break. Some thoughts on the origins, how Congress nearly messed it up again, and what each of us need to do to make it really meaningful. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sunday Edition, and happy Mother's Day. In a classic display of congressional dysfunction, disconnect, and incompetence, the lawmakers of this nation actually voted against having a Mother's Day holiday multiple times. In fact, the mother of Mother's Day, Anna Jarvis, gave up on Washington and started passing the resolution for the holiday in state legislatures. It was only after the states had independently passed resolutions to declare Mother's Day a holiday, then and only then did Congress and President Woodrow Wilson boldly and courageously declare, as of course they jumped to the head of the parade, we shall have a national holiday for Mother's Day. And of course, as with many things passed in Congress and then fueled by commercialism, the holiday soon drifted from its original intent. There is actually a proper way to celebrate Mother's Day. You see, it's a little bit sad and ironic that Anna Jarvis, who began Mother's Day, began boycotting the very holiday she created soon after Wilson made Mother's Day a holiday in 1914. Why? Because it had become too commercial. Jarvis decried the purchase of gifts and flowers and passionately argued that the only proper way to honor mothers and influential women was in the form of a handwritten letter. Well, from the moment Mother's Day was established and designated as the second Sunday in May, there's actually been a corresponding ritual which occurs on the evening of the second Saturday in May. The ritual, of course, is that husbands and fathers and children who, having forgotten, rush to the local supermarket to pick up a Mother's Day card and quickly sign their name to it. I know most Americans are indebted to the good people at Hallmark for bailing them out of dicey and difficult situations over the years. However, simply signing your name at the bottom of a rhyming verse, most likely written by a college English major working in Kansas City, Missouri, doesn't quite seem enough to give proper honor and praise to your mother or acknowledge the impact and influence of the extraordinary women in your life. You see, with all the technological advances of the modern world, the power of the personal touch is getting lost. Texts and tweets and emails and social media posts can be efficient, but they often are not the most effective means when it comes to expressing gratitude, love, or appreciation. People are very tired of being part of an impersonal, database-driven, form letter kind of world. There is actually immense value in a handwritten letter that transcends time and space. The most prized treasures of life saved in boxes and closets are most often a little handwritten note from a child, a parent, a loved one, a boss, or a good friend. Now, I certainly do not know what it is like to be a woman or a mother. I do, however, know what it is like to be led, inspired, taught, and loved by such influential women. With 7 sisters, a mother, wife, 3 daughters, and now 3 granddaughters, combined with countless colleagues and community members that I've worked for and worked with, I do recognize the unique difference the women of the world have on history and society and humanity. I think Victor Hugo may have expressed it best when he wrote, "She broke the bread into 2 fragments and gave them to her children, who ate them with eagerness. She has kept none for herself," grumbled the sergeant. "Because she is not hungry," said the soldier. "No," said the sergeant, "because she is a mother." Exceptional mothers and extraordinary women teach us by their very lives and examples that we are to live not by days, but by deeds, not by seasons, but by service. My mother, Carol Matheson, was the master of moments, magical and meaningful. Magic and meaning occurred in the low-lying and often ordinary moments of daily living. Each moment required a preceding moment where Carol would intentionally and purposefully choose to put the needs of others ahead of her own. She spent a lifetime creating magical and meaningful moments for others while demonstrating that the path to happiness is on the less traveled road of selfless service. My wife, Debbie, has also spent a lifetime on that road less traveled, demonstrating that grace and grit are complementary traits of powerful women, and that a lasting legacy is created not through a title, a position, or a corner office, but by those who can lead from any point on the compass and make a difference not by what they say, but by what they actually do. Now, in speaking of mothers, we tend to talk of the ideal, yet there are so many who find themselves in less than ideal situations. Unfortunately, we live in a world that seems bent on belittling the role of mothers. We're bombarded with images of what the perfect mother, wife, friend, professional, and perfect citizen should be. It's a world consumed with comparisons, and yet viewing life by comparison is always fatal vision. Far too many women have fallen into the social media-induced habit of comparing their worst trait with the greatest trait of another woman in their neighborhood or community or some social media influencer. So it's critical for you to realize that you're not alone. You're not alone as a mother or as a woman. You're not the only mother who's had to yell at her children or lose patience from time to time. You're not the only mother who's hidden from her children just to get 5 minutes of peace. You're not the only woman who has started and given up an exercise program on the very first day. You're not the only mother who has sat in the car, in the garage, and eaten the last of the chocolate chip cookies. You're not the only mother who silently wished that your husband and family really understood what it was like to be a mother. You're not the only mother who has followed your children's examples and stuffed piles of dirty clothes or other messes under your bed or in a closet when company arrived. You're not the only mother who has wished for a vacation after the vacation to have some time away from your family. You're not the only woman who wonders if you're making a difference. You're not the only mother who has wondered how you'll make it through the day. But wherever you are, you're not alone. As mothers, please do not judge your worth by our inept ability to express our true feelings. Every child, young or old, should pull out a blank sheet of paper today and take time to write down specific thoughts, memories, and lessons from their mother or grandmother. Even those whose celebration of Mother's Day today includes the sadness or loss of a mother who's passed away will actually benefit from writing a letter to her today. I encourage all of us to honor the original intent of Mother's Day founder Anna Jarvis by writing a heartfelt, handwritten letter to the influential women in your life. Long after the flowers have faded and the sweetness of the chocolates have been forgotten, tucked away in a drawer will be part of you on paper, which will be read and reread on difficult days and in moments when these important women long to be close to you. You see, a handwritten letter is the most fitting and more valued expression of love and gratitude on Mother's Day and every day. Well, happy Mother's Day to all. That wraps it up for us on Sunday Edition. I'm Boyd Matheson. Thanks so much for joining us today. And as always, as you go out into the world today, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something today that makes a difference. Music and the spoken word is next.